Well, we are here to sort of help in the celebration of Richard Peto's retirement, and so we thought we'd at least get together and reminisce a little bit and wish Richard a successful retirement. I will go back with a story that I was told when I first joined with Richard Dahl and Richard in London, in which somebody who was retiring said that retirement is like an old oil painting. The closer you get to it, the more defects you see, but as you step away from it, it looks better and better. So let's hope for Richard that it will look better and better in the future.
Cheers.
To Richard.
Cheers.
You'll note we're drinking wine because wine is good for you, right?
Absolutely.
I'll tell a little story about Richard that goes back when I first met him 50 years ago. He was just coming to the MRC unit where Richard Dahl was, and he showed up the first day on his motorcycle with his long hair, and Richard, to my benefit, Richard Dahl assigned him to me to work on a study we were doing with Charles Fletcher on the longitudinal changes in pulmonary function. Richard, I believe, knew from that point on the meaning of big data before the big data concept was actually talked about. He understood what would happen with large studies and longitudinal looking at things. And so I think he was a very important player, certainly in encouraging me, I'm talking about Richard Peto, encouraging me to continue to sort of look in that direction. We actually, it was actually Martin Vesey and I who started the the doctors' wives study in England. Richard Peto probably would have told us at that time that we had too few women in England to do the study. But in fact, over the years since then, Richard has been a very strong player. The one common story I'd like to tell is that when Richard and Julian Peto also would ride his motorcycle, they would come to our house in the evening to play bridge. Can you imagine playing bridge with two mathematical statisticians? They would wipe us out within an hour and then get up back on their motorcycles and take off.
Wipe out your
My wife
bridge
and I.
or your
No,
wine?
no, my wife. Well, both the wine and the bridge.
And the bridge.
My wife and I thought we were good bridge players, but I don't think we played bridge since we played with them. Well,
So I just have a short recollection of Richard's visiting while I was working on my dissertation, looking at age at menopause and risk of heart disease. Took one look at the preliminary data and made the point that we still had residual confounding with smoking, and I had to go back and redo a whole thesis paper to get rid of the effect of smoking on age at menopause that we hadn't adequately done, and it was that amazing quick summary of the smoking effect that stuck with me on his ability to really get inside the data. And then really, as I've seen Richard present around the world in many cities, you've brought a new message around tobacco, its health effects, and the ways we can summarize that to drive home the preventability of early mortality. That is really just a model for how we can focus on prevention. So thank you.
Let me add my own little note of thanks, Richard. You've been tremendously supportive of our cohort studies here from the very beginning, including, just among many other things, encouragement to collect DNA samples when actually nobody really knew what we were going to do with those at that time. That was really tremendously good advice. And it's not just our cohort, but cohort studies all around the world that you've been supportive of launching and continuing. A little personal note, thank you for writing a letter of reference for one of my very first appointments. And who knows, if you would not have written that letter, things might have turned out differently. Maybe better, who knows, but for the world. Finally, now that maybe you'll have a few extra moments in your retirement, I'd be really grateful if you'd write a review about the follies of random effects meta-analysis. Thank you.
Well, Richard, many thanks, and two quick memories. The first is when I was an early student, I gave a presentation at a meeting. I was very nervous, and after my presentation, a very senior scientist started attacking me vehemently, and I vividly recall how you came right up and defended me with vigor, and I thought, wow, this is what I want to be when I get to be a faculty member, so thank you. And a more recent memory, when you came to give the Cutter lecture in the epidemiology department and stayed over with us, you had neglected to pack socks for your trip, so you asked if you could borrow some socks from me. I was happy to loan them to you, but now I really want you to keep them. Thanks.
Thank you, Richard, and
Again,
best wishes
best
for the
wishes.
future.
Here, here.
Here, cheers.